No.
I'm right here. That was funny. I'm here. Does this work? Does this work?
Yes.
I'm here with Chris Miller. Thank you for having me. We're here again. Take two.
Yeah, I get another shot at
Yes,
it.
you do. The first one was great, though.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun the first time.
You happen to run sound today for
Mitchell Tenpenny,
nice. And who with last time?
state champs.
State champs. Who all do you run sound for?
Well, I did. Champs was like the first band I was with for a long time, and I still do stuff. In fact, they start a tour next week that I'm sending a friend of mine named Cale Conrad out for a week, and then I'm going to jump on and do the rest of it. We finish shows in 2 weeks, so I had to sub out a week of it, but I try to do it when I can. But pretty much this and that.
Okay. Let's rewind to the very beginning. Where are you from?
I'm from Dothan, Alabama, originally. I went to college in Tuscaloosa at the University of Alabama, and I lived in Birmingham for about 10 years. And I moved to Nashville in 2019.
Okay. So what got you into sound? Where did that first start?
Working at a church. I was like a band leader playing guitar.
Okay.
And we had a lot of really great guitar players and not very many people who were enthusiastic about doing sound, and I found that kind of frustrating. So I was like not really helping playing guitar because we got 6 guys who are all really good professional musicians. So I just kind of dove in on watched a bunch of Robert Scoville mixing seminars on the Avid website and a bunch of YouTube videos. We had a Soundcraft VI1. And
I hate that board. I'm sorry, but
yeah.
That's like, and at the time it was great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this was 2009. Okay. So like it was, I mean, it was good stuff at the time.
You started in 2009 Ring Sound?
Maybe 10.
Yeah.
But professionally 14.
Okay.
So I mean, I was, basically like the head volunteer of sound at a church until like 2014.
I love the church and doing sound from there because there's so many things you can like try and fail at, and it's a very safe spot to be able to like.
Yeah.
And you also have to like figure out ways around things that maybe don't sound as good as they normally do.
Yeah. There's a lot of advantages and disadvantages, I think.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, especially in Mitchell's a country artist, so in this world, there's a lot of the front of house guys came from mega churches, and I think that you learn a lot more about actually mixing in those environments than you do in like a club, because a lot of times in clubs you're playing defense, and you kind of have to know both. But you have to be familiar with both things. But once the shows get bigger, like the bigger the PA, the bigger the room, the more like mixing a record it is, which is what church is like. It's trying to be very even. It has to translate to broadcast. It needs to be very compressed.
That's actually a good way to put it.
You're mixing against a loudness meter, which like most like rock guys that learn in clubs never have to do that. So like when they hit a point where they go like, why does my mix sound so much quieter at 98 dB than everybody else? And they have to go back and like relearn how to make a mix sound loud in a box, which is what you do the whole time in church. So there's a lot of advantages to learning to mix in church.
Interesting, yeah, because I mean, looking back to when I did all the club stuff, it was very much damage control the whole time.
Right.
And there wasn't much time to do like source tone and work your way back from there. But
Right.
also with the small churches, I think it's kind of the same way of like,
Yeah.
you're also kind of doing damage controls based upon what you kind of
Right.
have there.
Yeah. Whether it's like the players or the PA is not very good or whatever, but a lot of times, especially in like bigger churches, like the rooms are, they spend a lot of time and energy and money on making the room sound good, and they have good PAs and good consoles, and so like you learn a lot of good habits, and you learn how to like focus on like drum tuning and guitar tones and that kind of like stuff that you don't get to do really when you're just working as a venue guy in a club, because people just come in, throw stuff at you, and you're drinking through a fire hose the whole time, so it's not like actively mixing.
One of the things I kind of did, I think, wrong is for the church thing is like, I ended up using a lot of plugins to mask for things because the musicians kind of rotated quite a bit.
Right.
And instead of having to because there's only so much you can do at that source and have it the same thing every single time. But I did a lot of plugins in the back end of that, which like made up for that instead of actually going to the source tone and figuring it out to begin with. Which kind of got me into this whole channel, and I had a kind of a wrong mindset, and because of that background with me, I kind of thought anybody who was really heavy into plugins was kind of masking for stuff. And then I started seeing people who were using plugins, but using it in a good way. Then I saw people who were using a lot of plugins, and it's like, I was the same person that would plug that graph on Facebook in a group and make fun of it.
Right.
But what was the context, man?
Sure.
You don't know the source, you don't know the microphone, you don't know the room for it, you didn't know any context, and at the end of the day, like, does it sound good?
Yeah.
I think one thing that is good for the club environment, vice the church environment, is that the figuring out when things go wrong and process elimination and fixing that fast.
Absolutely. And both of those streams of learning help you.
Yeah.
But like I think that both streams have negatives too. Like you come out of church, and like if you came straight from being a front of house guy at a mega church and you went straight into doing front of house on an arena tour, that you would have a lot of positive things that you learned in the church environment, but also the malleability that you have to have, and just like the thinking quick on your feet, troubleshooting, like dealing with the environment that you're in. Like a lot of times, like if you mix in especially a bigger church, like those environments are as close to, you're never going to mix in a venue that's anywhere near that good, So I think there's a learning curve, and you have to unlearn stuff both ways.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that learn in like small clubs don't unlearn a lot of the loudness, like perceived loudness stuff, that until they're in a place where they're like, why does it sound so quiet and far away in this football stadium with a roof on it? And you know what I mean? And so you never like the having it kind of be slick and like in a box and feel louder than it reads on smart. Like those things are all things that you do at church. So I do think there's a lot of positives to both things.
What advice do you give to those engineers that are in the club environment that want to step to the next level and maybe don't want to learn the bad?
Multi-track. Listen to the multi-tracks. Listen to the prints. If the prints sound good on a variety of different speakers and like in your car and on headphones and stuff, if it sounds like music, then you're probably headed in the right direction. Like obviously there's things that work on like mixing in the studio that don't work live, and the biggest thing live to me is that we can take advantage of the speakers being big and having a lot of headroom, so you can kind of lean into moving air in a way that you can't on a record. But like if I put my print on a laptop and hit play, it sounds like a band. Like, you know what I mean? And when I first started, that was not the case. Yeah. And it kind of took me a long time to really focus on trying to perfect, or not perfect, but trying to get the print to where like somebody could throw it on a TikTok video and it's actually like cool. Yeah. And there's a lot of advantages to that. It makes like the more translatable your mix is to different environments. Like this gig this year, we've done a private party in somebody's backyard to 40 people. We've done SoFi Stadium. We've done MetLife Stadium. We've done theaters. We've done 500 cap clubs. So like literally everything, and it kind of has to. It has to fit in all those, because I can't just walk up to the desk and like start the whole gig over, because we're in a weird environment. Like it needs to work on a lot of different PAs. If I don't have enough subs, it still needs to sound good. If I have, all of those things, a lot of times like people find that their mix like not at mix position, like you lose a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And all that has to do with like, are there holes in the frequencies that you can't hear because you have the summing of a big PA at the desk, and you're kind of lying to yourself a little bit. Like, is the snare really that fat, or are you just leaning on the fact that you got a ton of boxes in the air, and at mix position it sounds great and it sounds super thin everywhere else. Or you don't have a ton of subs one day and your whole mix sounds empty. Like all the more you kind of get all those flaws out of it, the more you can throw it in any environment and it actually works.
Well, another thing that was kind of tough for me too, especially in the club, is like you're almost mixing to the band as well and the stage noise of the band, whereas
that's true.
Here you can kind of push it through a little bit more.
That's true.
So now walk me through, where did you go from church to getting on tour?
So I play guitar. I was playing guitar on a record, country singer named John Langston.
Okay.
His first two records, and the guy that played drums on those records, his name was Josh Manuel. He played drums in a band called Issues, and I was their second monitor guy. Actually, funny story, it was here.
No,
it was at the Tabernacle. I'm at the time I was living in Birmingham, and they were like, "Hey, if we had the money, would you be interested in maybe doing a Warped Tour with us?" This was 2014. And the only gig I had to that point was church. So like I had massive gaps like in knowledge and in skills at that point, and still do, but like massive at the time. and so I get here like a little bit before doors, and they've already sound checked. And I walked in the green room and met the TM and met everybody in the band, and they were like, "Hey, will you do monitors for us tonight?" And I was like, "You've already sound checked." And it was on a Pro 2, and I'd never seen a Pro 2 in person before. And so I stood at the desk and I just looked at it like a deer in the headlights, but nothing went wrong. So they hired me. But so I have a special relationship with this venue. I love the Tabernacle.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out Phil Grinnell. He's all-time lowest front of house guy. Have you done him yet?
No, I have not.
He was doing front of house for Bring Me the Horizon on that gig, and he saved me. So the only reason I have a career is because Phil Grinnell is the man. Thank you very much.
So you've done both sides of the snake.
Yeah, at different times. I am absolutely more comfortable doing front of house, and my brain works way more comfortably at front of house. I kind of maybe narcissistically view myself as a musician first, and I find mixing front of house to be
interesting. Yeah,
a more artistic,
expression,
kind of creative lane.
Yeah.
Whereas like monitors. Obviously you can be creative and a great mixer.
But you're just giving them what they want.
But you are relying on the taste of other people.
Yeah.
And that to me can get a little not frustrating but boring.
Yeah.
Because like if it's really good, like they don't ever ask you for anything. You just kind of do RF and stand there, and that's not really. This is a little more. Everything changes a little more every day.
Yeah.
So
how'd you get hooked up with these guys?
A guy named Jacob Trunzo.
Okay.
What band does he work for? He plays keys and production manages a band from Nashville. I can't remember what they're called. But I'm in a group chat with a bunch of front of house guys, several of which that you've done interviews with: JP Huff, David Lloyd. Trying to think, many of them. And most of us live in Nashville, and we talk like every day.
I gotta put them all like on my hit list now. They got me. So you've done several different genres of music. You've done pop, you've done country. Have you done any other genres?
Yeah, metal, pop punk,
okay.
R&B, but mostly metal, pop punk, pop, and now country.
So pop and country kind of have some similarities. Is your approach to mixing kind of the same at both, or is it a little bit different? Or
philosophically, yes. Okay. But I don't do presets. I never walk up to the desk and and go, I have an idea of what I want to do. Just listen to it. And, maybe I'll do like a master bus thing. Like I'm running this Fusion and a G bus, and like just put that on, kind of do a setting and then mix into it. But like outside of that, I don't walk up to the console with any preconceived intentions. And like every artist is so different. Like Champs, is like rocky. Their drummer's like incredibly consistent and great. And the singer's great, but he sings super loud. And Mitchell sings loud too sometimes, but he's more of a he's really dynamic. Like we have stuff where it's straight John Mayer sob rock, and we have a song that's literally an Under Oath song. So he covers so much more ground vocally and with guitars and stuff. So like this show is so much more kind of programmed and in depth from a show flow perspective, whereas Champs is, I treat more like a rock band. It's just guitars, drums, and then kind of make it feel good, and that. But I think that both of those things work really well for both of those genres, and they're very different.
Okay, so for a singer that is that dynamic, you can kind of get lost in the weeds if you don't know how to kind of mix to that. Talk to me about your mixing style with somebody who is super dynamic.
On this gig, I'm returning the band bus, and then I have a separate vocal bus, and I sum to the left right, which is pretty different from everything I've done previously. A lot of pop people do that, and that way I have like full control of like turning the band post compression down, and letting the vocal sit on top of it. And there are songs where where there's more space in the song itself, and it allows me to push the band harder. And there's some songs that are really dense with the band, and you kind of like back off a little bit to leave headroom for the vocal on the master bus. I kind of picked that up from David that does Kane Brown.
Yeah.
He's the man. So,
I see a couple screens here. Did you plug in? I see you have waves here.
Yeah, I got on my groups. I got some wave stuff over there. If you hit that overview one, you can see what's happening. There you go. Yeah. So there's kick, snare, toms, metal, bass, guitar, keys, tracks, and I don't have anything on the vocal bus, but it's all just for time alignment for everything to be there. But it's mostly. I got NLS on everything, which like the summing seems to kind of add a little more depth to the master bus. But I try my best not to overplug the gig. Like on my main vocal, the only plugin I have is pitch correction. Everything else is analog. I try to stay as much out of plugins as possible, for no other reason than when we do a fly date and I can't get a wave server, I don't want my show to sound completely different. So
last gig you had a little 1500, and now you've got a S5000. I see it's both still in the Allen Heath range. Why the 5000 as opposed to the 1500 this time?
To be completely honest, I actually prefer working on the 1500.
Why's that?
I've just done it for so long, and like I'm on that fader bank 99% of the time during the gig, and but the 5K just has more buttons, and it's the same desk as monitors, so that kind of allows us, like, if this went down, I could set up a laptop for him and use his desk for front of house, because I have to actually use the outputs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could go to a 1500. Really, it's the redundant Giga Ace that keeps me here. But if they made a 1500 that was redundant, I would do that probably.
I get a lot of people who ask me about touring, and touring is actually a really tough lifestyle. And honestly, it's kind of like a little bit like, it's not really reality. This is a whole weird little thing that we step in.
Yeah.
And then we kind of go back to reality a little bit.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have kind of had trouble with that dynamic.
100%. How could you not?
It's tough.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that. How do you keep grounded, and how do you keep in touch with, like, because I know you're married, and I know that you're like, it's
my wife's over there, actually.
Does she get to tour with you a lot, or how's that?
Yeah, she comes to, you probably come to gigs once every 2 or 3 months, I would think. That equation looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part about doing this, but it's also just the hardest part about being a person. Like that, like how do you balance your work with your life, especially if your work is something you're like really passionate about and obsessed with. It's really easy to become a workaholic and neglect like the person you are outside of your job. I think people that do shows are really susceptible to that. Because musicians kind of in general have addictive personalities. That's why we're musicians in the first place.
Yeah.
And B, because everybody tells you the whole time you're coming up is, you have to be obsessed with it. You have to work circles around everybody, which is true, but also you have to be a person. And at some point,
but also,
and at some point you have to look around and go like, I'm not grinding so that my life can start 10 years from now. This is my life, right? Like the things the things you do are your life. So like, COVID did a lot of things mentally to everybody, but like losing shows was tough on people. It was tough on me. It was tough on me and my wife. We got married like 2 months before COVID, and we bought a house, and then all the work went away, and I had to get a different job, and I was commuting to a different city to work, and that was really hard. But it did show me that like this is what I was meant to do. Yeah. Like I heard a quote about coaching football one time that really impacted me. Can't remember who said it. Some college football coach was like, coaching is the best thing ever, but if you can do anything else and be happy, you should. and I feel like that is this. Like this is the best job in the world, but if you are capable of doing something else and being happy, you should do that. I am not. So I just have to accept that about myself and go like, okay, well, how do I make my life actually work with knowing that this is the thing that makes me happy, like from an occupational standpoint.
I have to remind myself sometimes that there's people who go to work every day to their job that they hate. And I'm very blessed to be able to be in 100% this position and be able to share with.
And most people sit around at night and they wish they could figure out that thing.
Yeah.
Like we're just so blessed to know what the thing is, to chase it, like it's hard. Like there's a lot of really smart, talented people. It's very competitive. You want to let yourself relax and you can't, but like, we're so fortunate to know that this is what we like doing. Yeah. Most people don't know what they like.
You're also in a very interesting position of you're doing a lot of PA du jour, and that's really hard, man. What is your process of tuning rooms when you don't have the consistent PA? I know you have some other consistencies you use and that we use in tools of like Pink, Smart, a virtual sound check. What's your?
Yeah, I mean, the tools are certainly helpful. I think your approach to it is really important. Like I was talking about earlier, I'm very adamant about my print translating to different environments and different speakers, and like me not really having to do that much in the desk to make it change. Like because like we would do a Luke Combs show in a football stadium on a GTO outline, and that was on Saturday, and on Friday we were doing Jordan Davis shows in an arena on Cohesion, which is completely different. And like the show has to work in both environments, And so I think just spending time with the print, spending time with multi-tracks, like making it being honest with yourself about what it actually is, and not just going like, oh well, like I can't really fix that because X, Y, or Z, or because of the gear, or because of the people, or because of blah, blah, blah. It's like, if you can make it better, just make it better. Like keep digging into anything that's not perfect in the mix. Like, like we spent over the course of this year, we rebuilt our tracks rig completely. I rebuilt all the guitar tones. We spent a lot of time on drum tuning and mic position. And like the better the sources are, the better the stuff will sound in every environment. Yeah. And if the print is balanced and the sources are good, then when you throw it up in a PA, if the PA is not broken, it should be fine. And so I don't spend a lot of energy wanting it to be exactly, precisely, scientifically the same every day. I just want to make it. I just want to take something that's good coming out of the desk and make it feel good in the room.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's kind of. I'm not quite as scientific about the PA stuff as a lot of people are.
That was tough for me, honestly. Is like the trusting your mix, getting it sound good, and then sometimes I'd second guess that like, oh, is it my mix? No, this is fine. Now it's time to work on that to be able to make this translate better. That's an interesting transition too, of going from like, I'm going to start with kick and work with you. But I guess that's kind of the mindset of clubs versus touring versus the taking the time to get the source tone, to get everything done to where all you're really doing is a copy paste.
Yeah.
What's the different variable in there this time? Oh, it's the speakers this time.
Yeah, exactly. And if what's coming out of the desk is good, then the only thing that changes is the PA. So if the PA is timelined and all the drivers are good, just parametric EQ and you can kind of roll.
Yeah.
You know, like, but Smart helps with obviously time alignment and that kind of stuff.
Talk to me a little bit about time alignment.
You know, like in here, I had to deal with this a little bit today. They have a new DMB rig. I believe it's Y, but I am terrible with DMB model numbers. But they got 4 single 18s aside in the air, and they got 3 stacks of 4 double 21s on the floor. And they got the outside double 21 stacks delayed up to the PA, and the center one wasn't delayed. So there was like a massive power alley here, and there's no subs anywhere else. So I delay the center back to the outside subs. Like that kind of stuff is like very basic sensitive engineering. I'm sure you have many viewers who know a lot more about it than me and are typing already a comment. But like, you know, that the smart getting a sub super in phase like is very helpful. But you know, the best tool you have is your ears.
What's the coolest trick you've learned recently?
Trick. Honestly, last year I drum teched for Kane Brown with David Lloyd, and I spent a lot of time with David and on my own, like learning about drum tuning, and David was very kind and generous with his knowledge about like how it affected him, and we were very collaborative about what helped and what didn't. I would go stand in front of the PA and be like, if I changed something, I could hear how it translated on the speakers. And so really just like learning a lot about tuning drums has been the most helpful thing I've ever done as an engineer, probably.
What's the hardest part of tuning drums, you think?
I don't know. Trust in your ears. Like it's like anything, you know, like trying not to blame the gear and just going, it doesn't sound amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and the trust and confidence in yourself to go like, my ears are telling me the truth.
Yeah.
You know?
Is there any genre of music you're dying to mix for?
No, I like pop and rock, and Mitchell kind of covers both of those bases.
He does, actually.
Yeah. I honestly, stylistically, I can't imagine it being a lot better for me. Mitchell did a song with a band called Bill Murray, who I also did front of house for a long time.
Great band.
And fantastic band. And they're probably top 5 favorite band for me of all time. He also did a song with State Champs, which obviously have a huge love for. But I love pop music. I grew up. My dad grew up, I grew up on Stevie Wonder and Earth, Wind and Fire, and you know, I like all kinds of stuff, but I love pop music.
What's the best concert you've ever been to?
1975 Leeds Festival, 2017. They were headlining the second stage. You couldn't get within 200 feet of the tent because there were so many people. And Jay Rigby, who now does front of house for My Chemical Romance, was doing front of house for 1975. And they were on I Like It When You Sleep, which is my favorite 1975 record. And it was a great show. My wife's over there nodding because it's the best show she's ever been to, too.
What is something you wish you would have learned sooner?
My identity and value as a human being are not tied to my skill. And that the stuff everybody's doing now is better than the stuff they were doing 6 months ago, and you don't have to be hard on yourself, or you don't have to just kill yourself for not being as good as blah, blah, blah. You know, stop comparing yourself to people. Just follow your creative instincts, you know.
Here's a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
You got 30 seconds till the band starts.
Okay.
Console crashes. Everything's down. You got to rebuild from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
You got 30 seconds. What do you do?
I mean,
like, where do you start?
Just gain structure and try to get the vocal clear and then figure it out as the band plays. That's never happened to me, fortunately. Phil Grinnell from All Time Low has a story about that. Where he did it in like a Midas promotional video about Pro 2. He was like, I had to build the whole show from scratch in 5 minutes, and the Midas sounded great. It was like they had it on all their socials and stuff. But yeah, I mean, high pass, low pass, try to make the vocal sound good, and then figure it out from there.
I love that. This key with the vocal though, because people come to hear the vocal, and that's kind of tough. It's like a new engineer too. Like it's that lead kick, and you want to start with there, but it's all about the.
It is programmed into our routine.
Yes.
Like I feel uncomfortable if I don't start with kick, just because every show I've ever done is kick, snare, hat, rack, floor. You know what I mean? Like it's the same order. But like if they can't hear the guy that's on the banner, then like they're probably going to be mad about it. They don't care if the kick sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Usually.
Well, I know you're a busy man, so let's thank you for doing this. If people want to follow you and follow your career, where can they follow you at?
On Instagram, Dreams of Skitch, and at M10Penny. We post a lot of stuff that has prints and show audio, and so probably hear more stuff there than anywhere.
Or come to a Mitchell Tenpenny show near you. Thank you so much. That was a weird. Let's try again. That was good.